Hello, everybody. So, enormous news today. I'm on the road again. Sorry about the sound. Enormous news. When I think of Michael Saylor, I think of him saying things like, I will be buying forever. I think of him saying things like, I promise you one thing, I won't sell. Short us, please. Him talking in a recent interview to a financial institution. I promise I won't sell. In fact, I'll buy more. This is what I get from all of the many interviews that Saylor has done. And of course, I could not be more excited that we knew they were going to talk about more offerings, right? But this much, I didn't think that. They are the Bitcoin bank. You got to raise money to be that Bitcoin bank of the future. You got to raise your startup capital to become the Bitcoin bank. You got to have the one company that's going to be owning a bunch of that Bitcoin in the future. And so they announced just that today. 21 billion and 21 billion in fixed income security and 21 billion in at the market offering, ATM offering. That's money that they can tap at any time. If the stock were to get quote unquote insanely overvalued, like in a squeeze scenario, like what happened to Volkswagen in 2008, like what happened to GameStop in 2021, if they were to do that and say the stock was trading at, I don't know, let's say 15 times the value of the Bitcoin. If a stock like MicroStrategy was trading at 15x the book value of that Bitcoin, it would make a lot of sense for them to just sell shares, and buy the Bitcoin because the stock is clearly getting ahead of itself. You know, there is a debate as what is the fair value for this stock. How many times NAV, right? Is it like a high performance bank? Should it be 2 times? Should it be 3 times? You know, I believe it should be in the mid to high single digits. And that's only based on how much interest I think they can earn on that Bitcoin. But if it gets too overheated, especially in a situation where you have a lot of options that are sold and where the underlying stock needs to trade hands, it's the marginal buyer that bids the stock up. And in that situation, you have an incentive to dilute because you would dilute less than you would accrete. You would accrete the Bitcoin much faster than you would dilute. It's like having a house worth $300,000 and selling 1% of that house for, I don't know, $4.5 million. You have a house worth $3,000. Would you sell 1% of that house for the valuation of $4.5 million in your house of $300,000? Probably that's the same strategy. It makes sense. When companies are overvalued, it makes sense for them to raise. Remember NVIDIA, a recent raise that they did. I think it was something like 30 billion. Remember Tesla, after they did a 6 or 7x they raised. It makes sense, and I'm glad to see that they are not shy about a 21 billion ATM offering and a 21 billion fixed income security strategy, which is the convertible debt. In many ways, one good way, I think, to look at the ATM offerings is just look at it as an instantly converted convertible debt, essentially. I mean, you instantly convert it. You instantly do the transaction. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about that. First of all, I want to point out that the price of Bitcoin seems to have spiked since this. And, you know, of course, it's impossible to know whether it's a reason or not, but Bitcoin is the happy asset here because it's the one who's going to have 42 million of marginal money coming in. So that's the happy asset. What do we know? Well, they continue with their key performance indicator of Bitcoin yield. They achieved 5.1% of Bitcoin yield in Q3 of 2024. That is excellent. That means that they accreted faster than they diluted. That is the strategy. And they have a target between 6 and 10% of Bitcoin yield between 2025 and 2027. They are earning a yield on Bitcoin relative to the stock price. And that's what matters. Now, of course, the market, with its usual brilliance, it's looking at MicroStrategy and it's thinking, well, equity offering bad. And so they read equity offering, right? Equity offering, ATM equity offering, they think it's bad because, yeah, sometimes SPACs, for example, they do equity for offering, but they're in a much different situation when they do equity for offering. In the case of MicroStrategy, you're doing an equity offering from a position of strength. It makes sense to offer equity when your stock is trading well above market value, right? It makes less sense when you're trading at net asset value, at your resellable value of your assets, is what I mean by market value here, not the value of the market, of course. You understood me. So they call it the 21-21 plan. They have the goal of raising $42 billion over the next 3 years. Very nice timing with the loose financial policy that we're about to get into. And of course, they want to use this 21-21 program to accrete, to strategically issue bonds, strategically issue equity in the most favorable scenario. So right now, it makes more sense for them to issue convertible debt that will dilute at a later date. But if the stock were really get overheated, it would be a wonderful strategy for them to start issuing equity and just buying the Bitcoin. And of course, if you're a long-term holder like I am, the volatility doesn't faze you. I mean, I own IMS. Earlier it was down 14%. Volatility doesn't faze me, and that doesn't faze me at all. I'm very happy about this capital raise. The strategy, this is old, by the way, so don't pay any attention to that. I need to update it, but I'm on the road, so I don't have time to do that, unfortunately. But the strategy, so that you understand, for convertible debt is you issue the debt, right? You buy the Bitcoin today, and you repay that debt by converting it at a later date. And so when you convert the debt at a later date, you dilute shares by only 10%. Through that convertible debt, right? And you grew the Bitcoin by 29%. So that is how it works. You dilute slower than you accrete. You grow your number of shares more slowly than you grow your number of Bitcoins on the balance sheet. And of course, I'm going to get to the annual report. To the quarterly report, and I'm going to get to the conference call. But I just want to highlight some of the highlights of this quarter that I see in the press release. So again, they have 252,000 Bitcoin now. So they increased that by 8,000 roughly is what they increased it at. They sold also 8 million shares of of Class A common stock for 1.1 billion. So to buy that extra Bitcoin, their average cost on Bitcoin is 39,000. Bitcoin right now is trading at 72. So that gives you an idea of when they will report their earnings in Q1. Probably of 2025, how many billions are they going to report in earnings? The algorithms, I really hope they get it by then, because otherwise they're not going to understand what happens. They announce the at-the-market equity offering, the ATM offering, which they may use, in my view, if the shares get overheated in value. It will make sense to dilute to buy Bitcoin. And of course, they also announced, which is their traditional strategy, look at that. They have issued new 2028 convertible debt at a 0.6% interest, right? So it's nominal. It really doesn't mean anything. And the money, the billion that they got, how did they use that money? They used part of that money, not all of it, but part of that money to redeem an old debt on which they were paying 6.1%. So they've, quote unquote, rolled over the 500 million on which they were paying 6% a year. They've rolled it over into a 0.6%. That's the beauty of a convertible debt. You borrow at next to nothing because you have built-in convertibility with built-in upside. I am excited to listen to the conference call. That's what I'll be doing on the road. Expect a full video with my deeper thoughts and a proper microphone tomorrow. But I just wanted to make this one very happy about the $41 billion raise, twice 21 billion. This was not investment advice, no financial advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on X, on Patreon. I appreciate all of the support. Have a wonderful day.